And with that, we have set for Smash Miles Tails Prower, an iconic character from the Sonic series. In all honesty, I can't think of any other Sonic character more deserving to join Super Smash Bros. Than Miles Tails Prower.
Let me show you who I really am. Get a load of this!
Hello and welcome to Set for Smash Moveset Concept, where we look at the legacy of video game characters and see how they would play in Super Smash Bros. And at long last, we're at our number one choice of the Set for Smash fan poll. And as you can probably take a guess, our lucky winner and your number one choice was none other than Dr. Eggman, or you might know him as Dr. Ivo Robotnik, a mad scientist from the Sonic series, who's on a mission to take over the world using his high IQ and a massive army of machines. He would later be known as Dr. Eggman, a nickname given to him by his arch nemesis, Sonic the Hedgehog, and has been around the Sonic series since the very beginning. Eggman has tried many times to take over the world, and at a few moments has succeeded, but Sonic has defeated him time and time again, either because he was outwitted by Sonic's speed, or by his own ego. But can Dr. Eggman really prove his evil genius and take on the world of Smash Bros? Let's find out. Beginning with the details, the series symbol would be the Sonic series symbol, but knowing Eggman, he'd want nothing to do with Sonic, and would do everything in his power to make sure his own series symbol was the Eggman insignia. I'll leave it to you guys to vote in the comments what you think would make the most sense. But now the real question, how would Eggman battle in Smash Bros? I've seen movesets in the past where he uses his Egg Flyer, or even used the Egg Mech from Sonic Adventure 2, but I've decided to go a different route this time around. I decided to go with an amalgamation of a brand new style Egg Mech, combining his flying Eggmobile, the mechanized feet of the Death Egg robot, and the giant grappling arms from the boss fight of Sonic 3. But the mech will have different shapes and forms depending on what situation it calls for, turning into actual original pieces of Egg Mech that he used in the past. But how would it look in Smash Bros? He's definitely on the bigger side of the roster, being just as big as Bowser. As for his stats, I decided to actually max out his weight, as come on, it's a giant mechanical robot. That thing is going to be very heavy. And considering it's a giant mech, it also hits like one too, with above average knockback and defense, and average attack power. And his weakest stats actually mirror Sonic's, as he has weak jumping ability and speed. However, there's also a couple of extra things that the Egg Mech will have, one of which is the ability to hover, as well as durability. Though Eggman does have above average defense and knockback ability, you can still damage Eggman's mech, more specifically in the arms and legs. The only part where he definitely gets the most damage is his major weak spot, which is his head, just like in the original Sonic games. So hitting there is your top priority when it comes to doing the most damage to him, but if you do attack the Egg Mech, it will have a little bit of super armor, so he will be able to still do his attacks, as just like with Karul's belly, if you damage the arms and legs, Eggman's mech will actually get damaged. It doesn't destroy Eggman's mech, but it does damage it to the point where his knockback ability will lose some power as well as his defense, turning his Mean Beam machine into literal scrap metal. When entering the stage, he will fly down and his weaponized parts will attach into the Eggmobile. For taunts, his first will have him doing his iconic evil laugh, because what's a good evil scientist without a good evil laugh? Taunt number 2 has him raising his fist, probably getting mad at the other opponents taunting back at him. And for his third taunt, he actually makes the robot flex. As we move on to his color palettes, just note we're only using Eggman's design so far, but know that the color of Eggman's mech will change also to the color depending on which color palette you choose. Of course, with the default design being his iconic red suit. Color palette 2 will give him a lighter blue, referencing of course his rival Sonic, but also more referencing his greatest creation to rival Sonic, Metal Sonic. Color palette 3 gives Eggman's outfit and mech a yellow attire, referencing Cubot. I would also make a color palette for Orbot, but Eggman's already red. Color palette 4 gives Eggman a gray attire, while also giving his mech a gray color palette. Obviously a more industrial look, but also reference to his mighty flying ship, the Death Egg. Color palette 5 gives Eggman an orange attire with orange mech, a reference to the iconic Eggman henchman, the Egg Pawn. Color palette 6 gives Eggman a black attire. This is a reference to the most recent addition to the Eggman Empire, his daughter, Sage. Color Palette 7 gives him a white attire with a white mech, reference to his grandfather, Dr. Gerald Robotnik. And finally, for his final color palette, it'll be another character entirely known as Eggman Nega, who is either a alternate universe Eggman or a relative of his from the far future. And finally, for his victory animations, Eggman gets out of his mechs and does a victory dance. Cause surprisingly, the Mad Doctor's got moves. Victory animation number 2, he takes a bow, while you get a zoom in on him, giving an evil smirk, as he truly believes he is superior to his opponents. And finally, for his final victory animation, Dr. Eggman makes a maniacal laugh and then throws the Chaos Emeralds into the air, juggling them. A reference to when you don't collect every single Chaos Emerald in the game, aka the Try Again animation. As for his victory theme, obviously considering it's Eggman, it's his iconic theme song from Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, EGGMAN, aka Eggman. Now let's move on to Eggman's standard attacks, where he'll control his mech either to attack with the mech itself, or even transform into a specific Eggman machine from the history of the Sonic series. Starting with his jab, it'll be a punch-punch uppercut with the giant robot arms. Yeah, it could be a reference to Sonic the Fighters, but also it's a giant robot mech. You gotta punch with it. As we get to his dash attack, I should let you know, when he's dashing on the ground, the mech will actually turn into a car, and if he uses dash attack, it'll become the Egg Drill, and a giant drill will drill forward, running over and drilling his opponents. As for his tilts, his side tilt will have the robot kick forward with great knockback ability. His up tilt will actually have the arm transform into a cannon and shoot ice ball in an upward arc, referencing the Egg Dragoon. As for the down tilt, we'll actually have it shoot a fireball, reference to his first boss fight in Sonic 3. For his smash attacks, his forward smash is the Egg Hammer, where the mech's arm will transform into a mallet and slam forward. For his up smash, he'll fire 2 rockets above himself. Depending on how long the charge, at max he can shoot up to 6 rockets at a time. These are projectiles, so they can be deflected. And for his down smash, the arms will actually do a 360 spin, based off his recent Egg Mech from Sonic Superstars. As we move on to his aerials, his standard aerial will have the Egg Mech turn into the Egg Catcher, where he'll shoot a burst of lightning under his mech, causing electrical damage, similar to Pikachu's standard aerial. The forward aerial is the Egg Wrecker, where one of the arms will actually turn into a giant ball mallet, a reference to the Egg Mech first boss of Sonic the Hedgehog. For his back aerial, Eggman will actually turn around and shoot a blaster behind his mech, showing that Eggman doesn't mind getting his hands a little dirty. His up aerial is the Egg Drill Mark II, where the mech arms will actually turn into drills and drill above himself. Though there is a small little spot where you can actually attack Eggman, just be careful of the drills. And for his down aerial, Eggman will shoot a spike ball under his mech. For Eggman's grabs, he'll do a two-handed grab that has far long distance grip, referencing the Sonic 3 boss fight. When he pummels a foe, he tightens the grip of the mech. For his forward throw, he'll actually shoot him with a massive laser from the chest, while his back throw, Egg Robot will actually do a suplex. Eggman's up throw will have the mech throw the opponents upward, and Eggman will shoot them down with his blaster. And for his down throw, command the mech to jump up in the air and then slam his foes into the ground. Another reference to Sonic 3's boss battle. And now we get to Eggman's special attacks. So what is Eggman's standard special? Considering I decided to make it based more off the Death Egg robot, I think it makes sense I call it the Arm Launcher. This works similar to the Death Egg robot from Sonic Mega and Generations, and ironically enough, Sonic's standard special. Eggman will actually lock on to the nearest opponent for a limited amount of time, and either by holding the B button to its max power, or by letting go prematurely, the arm will launch towards the enemy at full velocity. If it impacts a foe, it will do high damage and knockback. Though this is not a projectile, you can still counter it and attack the Egg Mech. Eggman will get a little bit of chip damage, but it's still basically a super armor move, hence why I gave Eggman that character trait. The Kirby hat is Eggman's goggles and his mustache. Eggman's side special is the Egg Grappler. Referencing another heavyweight villain character, Bowser, this is a command grab. Eggman will dash forward, and if he catches anyone in his grip, will do a command grab. While in this state, Eggman will also have super armor, unless the mech has dealt too much damage. Eggman's up special are engines at full power. Eggman will actually fire the thrusters on the back of his mech as well as in the feet, giving Eggman full 360 mobility in any direction of his choosing for a limited amount of time. The best way I could generally describe that type of movement Think Sentinel from Marvel vs. Capcom 2. You know, in hindsight, that's kind of how I designed Eggman as a whole, with the only exception being his down special, where I decided to make that one feel more like Dr. Eggman himself, a genius who would cheat his way to victory even at the cost of his own ego. Based off Shadow the Hedgehog, his down special is called the Egg Dealer, where Eggman will actually ready himself a slot machine inside his own mech. When activated, a slot machine will appear and will cause a roulette to spin. The rouletting will stop entirely on its own, or if you press down B again, or if you get attacked by an opponent. The slot machine will actually have different types of abilities depending on what happens. If you get no matches at all, nothing really happens. If you get 2 out of 3 matches, you'll get a weaker variant of that type of event happening, and if you get a jackpot, you get the most powerful version of that move. So what are these panels and what do they do? Well, starting off is the Egg Pawn panel. If you either get a match of 2, a single Egg Pawn will appear and run around the stage doing slight damage. However, if you get a jackpot, 2 Egg Pawns will appear, causing a little more mischief to happen. Panel number 2 is the Rocket panel. If you get a pair, only 1 rocket will lock onto the nearest opponent and explode. If you get a jackpot, 3 will fire at once, locking on to the closest enemies. Panel number 3 are bombs. These will have the shape of Eggman, similar to the Death Egg robot, but if you get a single pair, a single bomb will appear in front of Eggman, where he can pick it up or throw it, or wait for it to detonate. But if you get a jackpot, 2 will appear around him. The 4th panel are rings. Working similarly to Tails moveset in my Tails moveset concept video, rings are basically an item that'll either heal you if they're real, or if they're fake, you can pick up and throw. A single pair will only give you 1 ring, while a jackpot will give you 5. And of course, it wouldn't be an Eggman jackpot if he didn't purposely add a backfire function. So obviously, our last panel is the Eggman panel, where if you either get a pair or a jackpot, will damage the Egg Mech entirely. If you get a single pair, Eggman's mech will gain 5% damage, also hurting the robot in the process. However, a jackpot variant will give you 10% damage and destroy a random piece of the Egg Mech, with no way to actually repair it until you lose a stock. Though this would definitely make Eggman not competitive, that's kind of how Eggman works. Eggman, like most villains in the roster, play unfair and will do whatever it takes to win. Though a lot of the fighters do know how to play dirty, Eggman's kind of known to play dirtier. And finally, for Eggman's final smash, Eggman will fire his blaster forward, and the enemy caught will get paralyzed. Then you'll see Eggman fire a command from his mech, and you'll see in the distance the giant Death Egg robot, fully rebuilt and ready to fire a massive laser down on the stage. This is a cinematic, so it only affects those who are caught by the laser. This is known as the Death Egg's ultimate weapon. And with that, we have set for Smash Dr. Ivo Eggman Robotnik. Though I do think Tails is guaranteed a spot in Smash Bros., Eggman is still a popular choice for a reason. He is one of the fan favorite characters, though it's hard to tell whether he'll join Smash Bros. As a villain, or a boss, or even both. It mostly depends on whether or not Nintendo will add more Sega reps in the near future. But considering a lot of fan demand, I think Eggman's choice is more clear-cut than we all think. And with that, we are now done with Set for Smash Fighter Pass number 6. And thank you all so much for being a part of this Fighter Pass and voting for your most wanted characters in Super Smash Bros. I was genuinely surprised at how this all turned out, and I'm really glad I got to look at a few franchises that I've been meaning to get moveset concepts for. Though I did enjoy doing this, it will probably be a while before we do another fan poll Fighter Pass. But still, I had a great time, and I hope you all did too. If you like what you saw, be sure to subscribe and ring the bell for notifications. And if you want to support the channel, you can always be a channel member, a Twitch sub, or even donate to my coffee to get your name at the credits. Fighter Pass 6 is done, and Fighter Pass 7 will be in production in 2026, with our theme being modern Nintendo characters. So, I hope you look forward to the next moveset concept.